Paul, how are you? Your old pal Tyler here. I wanted to introduce you to some of my friends across the globe. They have some questions for you, and I think you're going to be pretty interested to answer some of these. I hope you're doing well, and I'll save my question until the end.
Hi, Tyler. Hope you're feeling well. Thanks for having me on. I gotta say something about the orange sweatshirt and the fact that you sound like you're in a bathroom. Giving you a hard time is one of my favorite things to do, and I'll just answer the question straight. So here we go.
And my question for Paul will be, Paul, which side of the relic fence are you on? Are you into the whole idea of a bashed up guitar, like a sort of a pre-bashed up guitar for players that want that kind of worn in feel? Or are you very much in the camp of, you want to keep it nice and shiny like it was when it was brand new? Or do you have splinters in your bottom and you're going to give one of those sort of non-committal answers that tries to keep everybody happy?
Lee, I have no splinters in my bottom. You might not like my answer, but I'll answer it. If you're gonna play the guitar and you're gonna back into the bass player and it gets a ding, it got a ding. If you dropped it, you dropped it. If whatever happened, let it get its war wounds over time. Let it have its scabs and scar tissue and all that stuff. We're shipping a brand new baby that's just come out, and let it do what it's gonna do. So that was committal. Accuse me of non-committal answers. I'm coming after you.
My question for Paul Reed Smith. Hey, Paul, what in your existence, in your mind, in your being, what makes music? What makes something musical that just hits you the right way?
Wow, David, good question. I call it a heart hit. When something hits you in the heart and you have this feeling, it's just like, wow, that is so cool. I'm always looking for an emotional response to the music in some sort of very positive way. It either makes me want to dance, or it makes me want to laugh or cry or feel something. There's been a ton of music over the years that I couldn't even believe the feeling of it. I was talking to the great Dennis Chambers the other day. He said when he went and saw Sly Stone, he couldn't talk for a week. And when he went and saw James Brown after that, he couldn't talk for a week. It gives you a feeling that stays with you. I can mention so many tunes. I'll give you just an odd example. The Wind Cries Mary will always be in my heart. The tune, do do do. It's just, it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. So that hit me in a way that I just thought, well, I could listen to this 1,000 times and it'd be fine.
Okay, my question for Paul is, in the era of 80s action movie superstars, are you going to go Sylvester Stallone's Rambo, or are you going to go Arnold's Terminator? Inquiring minds want to know.
If you hold my feet to the fire, Rambo or Terminator, which isn't fair, Terminator.
I have a question. Lately, I'm really into single coil, just one pickup guitar, special middle pickup. Of course, I love 3 pickups, 2 pickups, but what do you think about this? One pickup guitar. What do you think?
I like one pickup guitars, but they're what we call here a one-trick pony. Eddie Van Halen played a lot of his music on a one pickup guitar. I've seen Hendrix play on the bass pickup the whole tune. So, it's interesting, you picked a middle pickup guitar. Normally people don't use the middle pickup, but there's something gorgeous about it. You can learn how to use it in a beautiful way. Look, in the end, it's what the part is that you played in the song. So one pickup guitar is fine. Very, very often, I'll use the treble pickup, and then the whole tune I'll use the bass pickup. So it was recently I was going to use this one, and I ended up this way the whole time. And it sounded perfect for the track. So it depends. Sometimes it's too limiting, but I know people that live on the treble pickup. I know people live on the bass pickup, live on one pickup. That's their sound.
Hey Paul, Michael Palmisano here. Hope you're doing well. My question for you is, of all the players you've seen, all the amps you've made, and all the great guitars that you've built, who had the biggest sound, but the lightest touch?
Michael, that's a good question. I never thought of it that way. Eric Johnson.
Hey Paul, you're one of the more unique builders where you're an avid and active guitar player yourself. So what do you like to do to keep your chops up, and what do you like to practice?
I'm usually practicing these days in the middle of either writing a tune or recording the same song. We recently had a chance to record a tune called Don't Give Up on Livin', and I spent a lot of time practicing the tune because there were 3 drummers and you had to get a lock with 5 people at the same time. There was a lock with 3 drummers, a bass player, the other guitar player is a singer. It was a very interesting experience. Even though I was playing guitar, that practicing was how to be a better musician with their time, and they were pushing ahead in some places in the tune and they were pulling back in other places, and when they were getting ahead of the beat on the fill and they intentionally were pulling back, that was very interesting for me. So practicing for me is more about these days how to be in the pocket with these extraordinary musicians that I seem to be able to convince to show up at my studio from time to time.
Paul, I'd like to know your drink of choice. That way, whenever society returns back to normal and I run into you at NAMM 2025 or whatever, I can buy you one. First round's on me.
Ben, I like something called Octomore. I like Octomore in the black bottle. It's a peaty scotch. Look, there's nothing better than a good beer on a hot day or a glass of wine at dinner with your wife or whatever. To me, it depends, but if you want to pick a bottle, get the black bottle of Octomore. Oh my God.
My question for Paul Reed Smith is, what popular song do you absolutely, completely, totally despise?
Like taking candy from a baby was an old hit from when I was a kid. Didn't like that one. I don't really, if someone made a hit record, they did better than me, so I don't really despise it, but I gotta tell you, I sang you the tune that came to mind.
Hey, my question for Paul is, what's one easy way to ruin a great guitar tone in a recording situation? So let's say you're in the studio playing through an amp and everything in the room sounds incredible. What's something that you've seen or heard producers in the past do that takes that great in the room tone and makes it sound terrible when it's captured through a microphone or microphones?
Ross, that's the best question yet in my mind. I see it all the time. They take and put a really trebly mic right in the middle of the speaker and high pass it and turn all the bass off. And they go, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. In the old days, when we had a console, we didn't turn the bass knob off on every channel. I mean, they take this beautiful tone and they ruin it. I was at a session in LA and they had a Rohrer mic, ribbon mic on the amp, and every single time I'm sitting in there and in the headphones, all of a sudden it doesn't sound good. And I run out and go, what'd you do? Oh, we took the bass out. Please put it back. And I'll go, and I'll run back in and I'll start playing, and they'll do it again. And I go, what'd you do? Oh, we took the bass out and added high end. I said, please. What they'll do is they'll add the high end so they can hear it, but they ruin the tone of it. I don't understand the concept. Take a 57, stick it right in the middle of the speaker, and turn all the bass off. Whoopee.
How do you teach guitarists with big egos to be more humble without crushing their dreams or being a hard, old school bully of a teacher?
There are 2 definitions of ego. One is the desire and willingness to have impact on the world, which I like, and I'm better than you, which is definition 2, and I'm going to tell you how much better I am than you are, which I don't like. So monstrous ego is okay if you want to have impact on the world, but I think you're referring to the kind of ego that is disregarding of the people around you. The definition of maturity is responds well to the world, and you're basically saying, how do you deal with somebody that's not responding well to the world? Telling them they're wrong, maybe. How about not dealing with them? How about saying no? Or how about taking responsibility for yourself and taking yourself out of the situation? It's not my job to tell somebody that they're out of line unless they ask me or they've put me in that position as their teacher. The interesting question. Look, my best advice is don't do it. Listen, learn, empty your cup. Listen, learn, empty your cup. Learn. That's the best thing to do. Take care of yourself and not worry about other people.
So here's my question for the almighty, all-knowing guitar guru. Do you think the guitar as we know it today is somewhat in its final form, or are we expecting or working on even like a major breakthrough that will change the guitar forever?
A good question. I think that the guitar is the violin of our time, and they're using these devices as synthesizer controllers. And what I mean by that, you get a big ass pedal board, and they're using this to drive all the sounds on the pedal board. That said, I don't think the guitar is going to go away. I think it's increasing in popularity because, I mean, look, it's basically a harpsichord where you can change the length of the strings with your hand, and you have this visceral feeling with the guitar between you and the notes. It's the next most intimate instrument other than voice or saxophone, you know. I really like the instrument. I don't think it's going to go away. I think there's some modifications that are going to happen, but we live in a throwaway world. What happens when the TV set's broken? You throw it away. If the microwave's broken, you throw it away. If the stove's broken, you throw it away. Used to be you had them repaired. And guitars were starting to be head that way, and I'm trying to stop it. I want people to take their beloved instruments to their beloved instrument repairman and get them worked on. I was with my wife in the airport, and this guy was walking by with a guitar in his hands and no case. I said, "That's the problem." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What happens to that guitar when it breaks?" She said, "He's going to throw it out." I said, "Exactly, that's what I'm trying to stop." Take care of your instruments and take care of your music, and hopefully the guitar will take care of you.
So all my dreams have come true. Now I'm just left to, I guess, walk the earth. Well, there is one dream I still have. All you guys, all the other guys can go. All you guys can do that. Somebody teach me how to do that.
Tim, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can go doo-doo, da-da-da, which is an old Carlos lick. I can play that. I can play something melodic and beautiful. I can't do that, so not all the guys can do that. The typing, a really good melody in my world is it. Please don't start going. You got so much more to offer the world, Tim, with those beautiful melodies in your hands. Just give it up.
Okay, so money and scarcity, no object. What is your personal favorite tone wood for the back and sides of an acoustic guitar?
Somewhere between Honduras rosewood and Pernambuco, Chaltacoco, one of those three woods. We made a Pernambuco back and sides instrument. Ray LaMontagne bought it. It sounded unbelievable. And there's another one in Europe. Interesting question. In my world, I want to lock the back and the sides up so it's a speaker cabinet and the top is vibrating and the hole is the port. So I want all the sound to eject out of the top. But the number one thing would be to lock them up so that it's a speaker cabinet and the noise isn't coming out of the back of the guitar, because all the noise coming out of the back of the guitar is energy lost coming out of the front of the guitar. But I answered the question with the woods, and that's it.
I've heard you say, and we've talked about it before, and I've never thought to ask, the Santana guitar was built for Howard Leese, right? Did Howard ever get his guitar back? And I'm sure Howard now knows that Santana possibly has one of Howard's guitars. I don't know how that works. Can you please explain that all to me in a delicate and fragile manner?
Look, the guitar for Howard Leese was called a Golden Eagle. The switch was down here. We made a bunch of them. They were very early Santana guitars, as you would call it. You know, Howard had the problem that, you know, during the fires in California, he lost his home, and one of the guitars he got out was that guitar that he has. So it's still around. But it was the beginning of the Santana guitar, and we made a bunch of them. They were made out of the original one was made out of a dresser drawer front, and we actually put the plug in all the copies where the other drawer handle was. That was a big question. Howard said, "Are we going to put the plug in?" I said, "Sure, why not?" But Howard's got the guitar, and it's worth some money.
Okay, so my question for Paul is, in recent years, we've seen a big wave of exposure through social media and influencers and guitar YouTubers. My question is not an if, but when will there be a Tyler Larson PRS signature guitar? I guess my real question is, do you see guitar influencers on Instagram and YouTube as being as important to brands as far as exposure and promotion of the brand goes, as much as like the big name artists and touring musicians?
Well, you asked two questions, snuck the first one in, and then gently avoided it. As far as a model, that would be for us to talk to Tyler about. As far as the other part, the influencers are extraordinarily important, and I don't think of them as more important or less important. I think it as part of the new grid. So when the internet happened, I went, oh my God. Not only are we going to have to do ads and reviews, now we've got to do a website, now we've got to do this, we've got to do that, and there are all these new knobs in the music business. And then, you know, Tyler and Tim and all the other people who are doing the lesson influencer thing expanded a whole nother side of it. And I had to be brought along. I had to learn about it. I had to be taught. I had to understand. Tim Pierce sat me down at breakfast every year at NAMM and explained to me what was going on and how that he wanted to get involved in it. And I don't see it as one or the other. I think we have a very expanded view having to do with where the magazines have gone, what's going on with the internet, what's going on with, I mean, it used to be that I looked up stuff when I wanted to buy it in magazines or catalog. That is gone. I go look for videos on YouTube. I've changed completely. It's not one or the other. It's this beautiful new grid that showed up. And I like it. And I don't want to say one's more important than the other, but I can tell you the influencers have done a beautiful thing for guitar.
So Paul, what kind of musician or guitar player would you rather work with? Someone who each time they get an instrument is just like, wow, they just love it. You know, they don't question it, they take it and they play it, they just love it. Or a musician who equally love an instrument, but they're kind of painful to deal with because they always want something specifically done and they're just looking at it with a microscope all the time. Who would you rather work with?
Herman, I don't think you're a pain in the ass. I love working with you. You've got so many good ideas and so many brain cells. I like working with you on all these new ideas that you have. I enjoy the interactions both ways. I can tell you that working with some of these artists on the specifics of their models has been, I wouldn't even call it difficult. I would just say it intriguing and in some ways very joyful, because in the end when the market says no, oh really, we'll take that, oh I want one of those now, and then my phone blows up, I can't get one, that I like.
Hey Paul, so my question, multi-parter, if you had to pick one player from each decade that to you best represents or embodies that decade, be it their tone, their playing, their songs, their overall impact, whatever criteria you like. What guitar player do you think of when I say the 50s and the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s? And if you want to do modern day, let's say anything after 2000, what are your guitar players for each decade?
So Brian, it's a very complicated question, but I'm going to answer the 50s one. And I have to give the nod to Elvis, and let me explain why. He took a band, a big band, which would be horns and saxophones and trombones and drums and bass and this huge big band, and condense this music down to 3 people. And now you could do it in your garage. You didn't need a big band anymore. And when he played on the Jack Parr show, which is the first time I could find a video of him doing Heartbreak Hotel, he literally was coming out of the TV and grabbing you by the throat. The second thing they made him do was sing to a hound dog on Steve Allen's show, which he didn't want to do. But it changed the world. Now you could have a band with 3 people. You could have a band with 4 people. He's not known particularly as a guitar player. He's more known as a famous singer. But wow, it changed guitar forever.
Hey, it's Thomas McRocklin here, and I've got a question for a PRS guru. So as somebody that's typically played very thin neck with a flat radius most of my life, what PRS guitar should I check out and recommend to my followers?
I don't know. If you played a Holcomb, you played a Waring. We've made a lot of guitars with flatter fretboards. the guitar you were holding didn't have a headstock. We haven't gone there yet. I can understand your point, but we've made a lot of flatter radius guitars. You should check them out. Look, the whole idea is bring me 12 pairs of shoes and get away from me. You try them all on, decide which one you like. Same thing with guitars. Have 12 there and try them all. Tell a salesman, get out of your hair and play them all and figure out which ones talks to you. I don't think I'm going to saw the headstock off anytime soon.
My question would be, how important do you think an electric guitar's acoustic resonance is to its overall electric sound?
Well, Chris, you've just asked the number one question. No matter what mic you put on Barbra Streisand, she's not going to sound like Paul Rodgers. No matter what mic you put on Paul Rodgers, he's not going to sound like Barbra Streisand. A pickup is a microphone. If you have a guitar that has no bass and no mid-range and it's all high-end, something's taking the bass and the mid-range away. If you have a guitar that's really bassy that has no high-end, something's taking the high-end away. Guitars are subtractive. The string is doing all the frequencies, just doing bass, mid-range, and treble, and it doesn't weigh anything. The high E string is a couple of grams, so when you have a string that's that lightweight, anything that touches it affects its tone. Look, you can make a guitar string sound like a sitar, and then the pickup's going to pick up the sitar sound on every note, right? So it's not so easy. It is the argument. I based my entire career on, first and foremost, the guitar is an acoustic guitar, and that's important. Look, you can check how good a guitar is with a stopwatch. A guitar that rings for 10 seconds is not as good as a guitar that rings for 45 seconds, period, because something's eating the energy up. And my experience is you can beat the crap out of the guitar and make something work, but you're better off with something that rings. Just my take.
Do you ever feel obligated when you compose to create difficult technical pieces of guitar, or do you just compose whatever comes out of your brain? Cheers.
It's never about how complicated it is for me. It's always about how beautiful it is, or what kind of feel it has, or what the message of the tune is, it's not about how complicated it is. Now, I can tell you that when I bring the tunes to the band, and I'm in a band with people that can play heavy jazz, sometimes they'll take it harmonically to places where I can't even play my own tune anymore. They'll put a diminished here and an augmented there, and then it's a 2-chord into a minor third into a major into this, and flat to 6. I understand generally what's going on, but mostly what I brought them was double stops, and then they'll find out all the twisty parts that go in between. So, no, it's never about how technically heavy it is. It's always about the melody. Even when I listen to Bach or Mozart or Beethoven or any of them, it's the beautiful melodies that just keep getting warped as the tune goes on that attract my attention.
Paul, my question to you would be, if you weren't busy making the best guitars in the world, what would you be doing and what would be your job?
Look, I never wanted to be a guitar maker. I wanted to be a musician, but it wasn't good enough. So if I went to a guitar store and I played, everybody ran away. If I opened a case, it would attract a crowd, and I had to pay attention to that feedback. But recently, being in a band with the Granger brothers and Mia and Michael and all the other musicians that I'm around, we have the great Dennis Chambers lives in our area, and Chuck Brown and Juju House and all those people from DC, and being around those musicians, you just want to play music. So of course I'd want to play music. Why would I want to do anything else?
Well, I hope you enjoyed those questions, Paul. It was a fun time to get in touch with all my pals, and I'm sure you saw some familiar faces as well. I have one final question for you. Let's say the aliens came down to Earth, and you were tasked with showing them what music is. What would you play for the aliens?
Tyler, I would take them to a go-go gig where the crowd loses it, or a Nigerian juju music with King Sunday 80 gig, or I would take them to Tipitina's and put them in the crowd when the crowd is just literally moving around like one flock of birds. I would take them to a Santana show where everybody's dancing in every seat in the house. I would take them to a Minaj show in a stadium where everybody sings every word. I once was at a Sting show on the Dream of the Blue Turtles tour, and Omar Hakim and Daryl Jones, the bass player, kicked into a odd time signature, and the entire audience at Merriweather Post lost their noodles. They came unglued. They couldn't control their bodies. It literally, people were moving around in ways they didn't understand, and I would show them that feeling that makes us love music. Now, hopefully the aliens can hear pressure waves between 30 and 20K. They might not be perceiving that. We have this little bandwidth of audio we can hear in pressure waves, and this little bandwidth of photon waves, that light waves that we can see with our eyes, and maybe they don't pick it up that way. You'd have to put it in their domain. Music might be the thing they go, and then take out a gun and kill you. I don't know. You're asking a big question. Everybody, thank you so much for having me. Tyler, you did an unbelievably good job putting these questions together. They're very varied and makes me think, and I had no preview of the questions or the answers I was going to do because I like being thrown in the deep end. Tyler, thank you very much. See ya.